Well, hello everyone, the Mama streams again as usual. Um, so far I only had one. Our friends here, our friendly, well, if I call them Moon.
What's up, buddy?
Not much. Yourself?
Nothing much. You like my new OC?
Kinda looks like the your waterfall mist LC, but more it's covered in blue paint.
And has the mechanical wings, as well as magic
Hmm.
around that front leg.
Uh, it looks kind of cool.
Yeah, and I have to thank our friendly Super Mario gamer for the name. I had four good options, and he was torn between this one and another one. And out of the two between his options, I figured this one fit this OC pretty well.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah, I think so too.
the Starry Night Sky, as in what Princess Luna takes care of, it's normally you get some scenes of black, but mostly it's all a good dark blue shade.
Hmm. So what you been up to though?
Watching virtual rail fan.
And what's that?
It's basically a channel where you can watch trains in action around the U.S. Deep from depots to junctions. uh, and I'm currently watching one down in Waycross, Georgia, which to me is more likely the busiest one, and it is pouring rain down there at the moment.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't done much that, and I don't think that I'd ever even heard of that here though. I don't know that there's a thing, but have you ever tried VR goggles or something like that?
Virtual reality goggles.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I knew what that VR stood for. I wish I could. If I could, I'd be seeing myself in the Milky Way.
Well, that's something. I mean, I did read there were some. This was in actually a Swedish scientific magazine where they mentioned that were one particular virtual reality goggles that you can actually visit if it's you were standing on Mars surface. It
Oh,
show you
I would love to see a blue sunset in a set of goggles of
yeah.
Mars.
Unfortunately, those that type of goggles was not available for to sell, being available to buy. Actually, this day were um, I think they were either just only for science projects or they were still in as like a prototype. I can't say for certain. I seen there were actually okay. You heard the term flying cars for years, right?
The DeLorean.
Yeah, where basically any car that is has as a chance or ability to fly. I mean, the concept of flying cars has been since I probably guess since the 50s. I mean, okay, if you lived during the 50s and 1960s, the concept of this, how the year 2000 would be for us. Like, you'll assume like skyscrapers, travel to Mars, to be a colony of Mars, colony of the moon, um, probably
Subway
flying
taking off.
cars. Yeah, like anything like some, because if we've seen from a lot of sci-fi movies, like say, um, like Star Wars, where you have ships that travel hyperspace, and or Star Trek, where you have teleporters, and replicators that actually can duplicate food, sweets at almost from middle of nowhere. I mean, that type of technology were is science fiction in most part. But if you lived on the, let's say, from 60s and to from between 60s and 70s, okay, that technology were like it's the teleporters were in sci-fi was pretty much new. But in reality, people assuming that when we are reaching the 21st century, we're expecting to have all that type of technologies almost that we have flying cars already, and that we have a big colony on Mars and on the moon, maybe a space station or on some like Jupiter or something, and
I would like to
that's
see
understandable.
I would like to see where they make an amphibious car that can drive on top of an ocean surface and only runs on solar power.
Well, I actually saw this the same magazine that I read of. They were actually mentioning that they were having developing a car that can drive but also fly. They was able to have wings and to be flying around. And when it was flying, the wings could be um being some okay. The wings would be dragged in towards the body so that would take less space. The only thing is that if only like two people can sit in that particular car. I mean, flying cars, like I said, has been as a concept idea for at least several decades by now, since the late 60s.
And
Especially when this,
go ahead.
since the space age started, late 1950s and the early 60s, when Apollo 11 landed on the moon, everyone started to build had this um, having these dreams or started in developing these ideas of being space stations like, and you probably have seen drawings of like that from the 60s or 70s where have this like a big ring where like people are living on the surface of inside like a bit, and that section is spinning to create an artificial gravity. Okay, that type of technology is way over ahead of us, but we are getting there. And having driving like a flying car or something like that is okay. It's kind of cool. I mean, the idea of flying cars is still only one step away, but we are currently not in that uh hasn't like we aren't in a fully uh, I mean we only
Arrived, I have.
but
Says
like I said, that the flying cars itself isn't mostly available for the public. I mean, this isn't. There's still some things we need to fix it, but then self-driving cars. That one actually
it.
has also been self-driving cars has been around for maybe about 10 years. I remember I saw this article. Um, um, Google's self-driving car got a speeding ticket.
Game
Yeah,
Pass here.
I know. I saw him.
Um,
But like I said, yeah, but like I said, this. I mean, speed. I mean, Google's self-driving car got a speeding ticket. But I don't. I am assuming like this: the ticket was ripped, and that Google will not have to be paying for it. Even though even those cars. I mean, self-driving cars. Um, Even though they're not this is not like available to almost everyone in the world. There's
could you
still
imagine?
some.
Could you imagine sitting in the passenger seat, no one in the driver's seat of a self-driving car, and you just have a little fun with the cop saying, "He was here a second ago. I don't know where he went," and you're the
Yeah,
one that pays the ticket for the car. I mean, how is a car supposed to pay a ticket?
I don't know. But I don't think that when that happened, I think Google actually um, didn't even pay for the ticket. But I can't say for certain if that they actually did or not. But I had seen. Oh, I got it. I have seen an article that several companies in the world, like in part of Europe, and I think even in the United States, but that one I can't be correct confirmed if it's actually happened yet. Several bus driver companies actually have been using self-driving buses, but those buses are actually more as um, pre-programmed in a destination in its computer. I think they actually had at least um, they had, I believe, one of those type of buses actually in Sweden at the time. Um, I think this was around 2015 or 18. I think they were about this. Um, those buses were only for test drive. They were not. I don't think that was a. But you can actually hop on the car, these buses. But there was only in like in one city. They were only at available at the time. I think it was in Gothenburg, which is the second city, largest city on the west coast, nearest more towards England. But but like I said, self-driving cars is, well, it's always a big thing and for a step forward in future. But so far we need have a passenger, because when Google have their own self-driving cars, they actually have only one co-pilot or co-driver in the passenger seat, just in case if something would happen. Because most of those cars aren't 100% accurate yet. And like I said, most companies in the world, like Google, and I would even surprise if even Elon Musk have developing self-driving company cars or buses or anything like it. Because some mining companies actually using self-driving trucks deep underground for that reason.
Smash. Number
Hmm?
one, I could not see any form of self-driving bus whatsoever. I mean, that type of vehicle, uh, while I think it's interesting, I would say hell no. I mean, a subway
Well,
train, I could see a self-driving subway train. That be interesting for
true.
sure.
Well, okay. Imagine this. Um, self-driving cars is one thing, and okay, my dad told me something that I never even imagined. They were supposed to be a rocket launched yesterday or 2 days ago, but that one it was never launched. This particular rocket was completely different from the most other in the whole world. Even as this one was completely from the privately space companies and like SpaceX or NASA or others. This one was 80% 3D printed.
Like pixels?
Uh, kinda. I think it is. I mean, a 3D printed rocket. Like, at least 80% of the rocket was made of a printer, like a 3D printer. I was like, what? Are you serious? I was
Are
like,
you sure? Are you sure you weren't looking at a cartoon on paper?
actually, it was my dad who told me about it during dinner last night. Yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. I was like, whoa, whoa, seriously. But then, also yesterday, I saw this news clip. This is a topic that may interest game guy. Space.
I'm already intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, NASA actually are planning to sending a probe, a new one, to Jupiter's moon Europa. And this particular probe is going to have been equipped with some sensors and other equipment to do readings of some geysers. Apparently, they have been discovered geysers on the moon Europa's surface.
Hmm.
So this probe is going to analyze these geysers' contents when they vapor out in space to analyze it if it actually can contain DNA, not DNA, but the building blocks for life. And apparently, some of the equipment on board that probe is going to be actually being manufactured here in Sweden. I wasn't actually aware of that. I mean, we know that at least some scientific experts believe that know that there is an ocean. Well, they believe that there a deep ocean on that particular moon, but they believe that since the ice is about, I think, was 10-mile thick, they believe the life there had been had existed for billions of years, and that and they also believe that Europa is not the only moon in our system that has a liquid ocean on the surface or under this ice. Turned out that the moon Saturn, the moon Enceladus of Saturn, have an ocean. Well, not like a global ocean. As far as they know, there are only small pockets of ocean in the southern part of the dead moons, which they had discovered some uh, geysers from the previous space probe Cassini in the early 2000s. They discovered there was this geysers, and when there wasn't like some years later, when they some doing some readings, they discovered there were actually an ocean on this under the ice. And but so far they are only doing some readings. Then Cassini wasn't equipped to put anything on the surface there or make anything more closer readings because mostly it's because that the technology on board, the equipment wasn't how to say would be outdated if it were considering to our standard of the new developments. I mean, there has been like what almost 20 years since that probe was even arrived. So during that time frame, new technologies, new better equipment have been improved. Like say when they send that Juno, a space probe to Jupiter that was arrived only recently. That one is actually powered by solar panels. But most of the probes where they travel there out that far is not using solar panels because this is more the further away you're from the sun, the less power you will get. And they discover like when Titan, the moon of Saturn. That's the only known that is actually the only object in the whole system that has an atmosphere thick and it's very identical. Well, maybe not identical, but it's very close to when Earth was in its early development of life. We start, and there is actually ice there, but the ice is not on the directly the surface. It's way below. It's like I think maybe if I remember correctly, 20 or 30 feet down, and that ice is so hard, compact, like it had to be in. It's so hard. It's like you like almost like you say, what is like a glacier ice? No, that type of ice is way harder than a glacier. But I mean, think about it. They discovered there are lakes, rivers, oceans on Titan. But or liquid methane and ethane, which is completely different. I mean, they just believe that when our sun is in a red giant stage, they believe Titan for around maybe for 200 to 300 million years will have life. Because as the sun will expand its size, the habitable zone, or as also known as Goldilocks zone, will be pushed outwards. It will be moved. That means when Titan end up in that zone, it's possible that the planet, that moon, can develop life. But it's hard to say if that life will be sentient. It's hard to know even for certain about that. I mean, that's like 5 to 6 billion years in the future. But even if they are alive, it's not saying this. What if that humanity is extinct? Because as we are now, 8 billion people on the planet. They believe that by the end of the century, 10, maybe it's 12 billion. There is one thing that the most most experts are afraid of: human population decline. Because for a number of years, the population had increased. A previous expectation of the world population would reach is 12 to 13 billion around the 22nd century. But now it's they are expecting maybe as 9 or 10 billion. Their most fear is that the world population is declining, meaning some countries have low birth rate, meaning that there are enough births to maintain the population numbers. It's like in the movie 2012. Like when that movie happened, it's like, okay, it was predicted like the world would end the December 21st, 2012, which never even happened. Because people, they interpreted the Mayans calendar that marks the end of the whole world. But it wasn't even that thought of. If they had thought more, done maybe more closer research, it didn't made the end of the world. It only meant the end of the calendar. It would meant start of a new one. I mean, if like, okay, basically, when we have a calendar, it's that marked January 1st and it ends December 31st. When 2022 ended, what happened? We entered 2023. Same thing for much, much longer. If I remember correctly, it's not 1 year. I think it was 3 or 5,000 years. So when their calendar ended, people assumed the world's end, Judgment Day, Doomsday, what's going to happen. I mean, a lot of people around the world preparing for the Doomsday to end. But it haven't happened. There is one case, something similar happened. I don't know if you guys heard about this one. This happened actually before Game Guy's lifetime. And this happened at least during my, Cody, and Malachi's lifetime. Heaven's Gate. Have you guys ever heard of that one?
No.
You heard about this, Game Guy?
Yup.
Well, basically, I don't remember exactly which year, but it was in late 1990s when a comet I think was Halley's Comet or was a Hale-Bopp Comet that were making its approach towards Earth, not the impact, but passing by. Is like Halley's Comet passing through the system every single around 76 years or so. But it was this cult that actually believed there was a spaceship in the tail of the comet waiting for them to be picked up. And let's say that this entire, and this actually cult it was known as Heaven's Gate. They commit suicide by drinking poisoned uh, drinks in order to believe that the spirits will be joined this alien ship. If I remember correctly, if I say Heaven's, whoops, come on, Heaven's Gate. Here we go. Gate, come on. Here we go. There's a religious group from between 1974 to 1997. Okay. Let's see here. Mass suicide. Okay. How many? 39 people commit suicide, believing that a spaceship or a UFO was in the comet's tail, hoping to get them to brought them there, but never happened. It's kind of similar to another thing happened in another cult. I am assuming that you guys probably heard of this one. Um, what's it called? But basically, there was this cult in come on, what was this? Come on. Let's see here. Come on. Yes, finally here. Okay, um, yes, the cult was known as. Well, the cult lived in a town known as Jonestown in Guyana, in Brazil, South America, in during the come on 1978. We had around 900 what was it 930 people. All I can say is the leader Jones, he was a complete fanatic. He was a complete nutcase. He managed convincing all his followers to drinking a poisoned punch, including the children. And and he was a reverend, to be as he call it. Let's see how many. Come on, where is it? What the? Um. Um. I don't. Okay, basically, around 930 people were part of this cult. You're assuming that every single one died. From what I remember, only a few survivors did manage not to drink its poison in Jonestown. Ever since that happened, the whole town has been demolished. I'm just saying it's good to see how far anyone will believing to be as the new holy prophet. Okay, I can say this one. This was a man who predicted Earth's end twice and had wrong twice. And first, I believe the first one was around the early 2000s. Nope. And the second one were around early 2012 or 13, I believe I would say it was. And he was predicted the world should end around one particular day at 3 p.m. And I was like, I was at work when it happened. When he's like, 3 p.m. Okay, where does the world end? The past, okay, 5 minutes passed, 10 minutes. Nope, the world never ended. But then there is now this might Apophis, an asteroid supposed to be approaching Earth. It will arrive around within the next 6 years. And when that happens, it's only passing by. Apophis will only pass by Earth with a smaller distance, like maybe as half of the sun distant, the half of distance between the moon and Earth. That close, it will pass by. But it will return a second time. This one will be in the wait. I think I was mistaken that year. Let's see, Apophis asteroid. Potential hazards near Earth object. This is okay. It says here possibility 2009, 2029. Okay, come on. Let's see what it says about in Swedish territory. Okay, yes, around 2036 will be the next time. And that's like that's about 13 years. If there is a potential, if Apophis would impact Earth, the area will be in as big as the whole Europe, and a dust cloud will affect the whole climate for several thousand years. And if it impact, its entire energy release is 880 megaton. That power is equal to almost 65,000 Hiroshima bombs. That how powerful it is. But NASA, along with other space agencies, have been developing this new program or project in order to defend Earth from any potential asteroids that will hit Earth. Some of the idea is to send a probe to the surface and nuke it, like blow it up before it was even a safe distance from Earth. That might possibly work, but there is also one thing that they should take in consideration. Even though the asteroid is blown into several pieces, the solid pieces might still be large enough to make considerable damage on the surface. But at least they won't be as big as an asteroid that could wipe out the whole humanity. Another idea they had is to paint the whole asteroid in such, I think it was in paint in white or silver, in order to hoping that the sunlight will cause this asteroid to be pushed out of its orbit or this out of this path. But honestly, painting an asteroid, that is a pain in the ass type of job, and that requirement of the paint Um, yeah, it's a lot of. But there is one thing that they also should know. What happens to liquid substance when they come into contact with the space called vacuum? What happens? Do you know, game guy?
No, it
You don't
floats
know what
away. I'm
happens.
pretty sure.
No, what happens if you had a bottle that is still liquid inside and you throw it out in deep space in a vacuum? What do you think happened to it?
The liquid just like doesn't it freeze or
Exactly. So if you have a paint that is water-based color, water-based paint, and to have it sprayed, it had to be very close to the surface of the asteroid otherwise, and fast. Because if you are spraying it in a distance and slowly, it will freeze before it even touch the surface. And you know, speaking of asteroids, there is actually several agencies like NASA who want to exploit the asteroids in asteroid belt, which actually will be something that they actually could be a benefit for humanity, since the asteroids consist of some rare earth metals like platinum, nickel, and other rare earth metals. Something like that, platinum, for example, like since that is often used in electronics, gold, for example, mining those asteroids for some rare or even common animal metals like say titanium, nickel, or anything, or even cobalt, which also is a rare metal. If you can extract that from the asteroids, you will make a profit. It also been providing some of the industries like electronics, like phones, TV, you name it. It can provide something like that in that component. But so far, we don't even have the technology to even to do so. But I think it's possible that could provide. Some people are even hoping that one day that we could actually set up colonies in the asteroids, like borrow them out and set up colonies inside the surface. And I mean, okay, that's actually not a bad idea. At the same time, you can have a colony and a mining process. Because sending probes or ships back and forward will take months, perhaps even a year, to be transported some items and transported back up again. But if you have people living there and mining it, it's easier for them to send it back it's more frequently and have to be waiting for a ship to travel back there and forward. Just imagine, because like it's like when we have a colony on Mars, we won't be able to send new more ships every single time because the cost it will be quite expensive, and also there's only one time when Mars and Earth is closest to each other. That time window only lasts for 6 months, and that's the only time. That's the only time frame in when there's have an opportunity to send a crew to the planet in the first place. And NASA won't be sending any extra supplies to the Mars colony because it would require, like say, building materials. No, as this one thing, we had always been has always been taken advantage of our environment in order to build things. Like people in say people, if you like the hobbits, they live in this under this hollow surface holes. So, and it's like the Native Americans. For thousands of years, they had always taken advantage of what they thought around them. Like they took always advantage of was the nature could provide them with the fruit, the berries, and the animals, and even the building materials. Even our distant ancestors, like the early man, when they were still living hunter gatherers, they used the skin from the mammoths, which they make like tents of. They even used the mammoth's tusk as maybe as support beams in the homes. And the other Native Americans, like in the ancient cultures, they used clay. Some of them actually built homes in open cliffs. And considering them, they did that. So why wouldn't anyone else be taking advantage of the things that's around us? So Mars colonies, moon colonies, were expecting to be provided to take advantage of the things that is there. So again, Gab, what you been up to?
Haven't been up to much.
Same here. I just been our dog watch for a few hours, out of maybe an hour or two. My mom was just for the doctor. I think was just she get she got the shot, not for COVID or anything, which is normal. And then so during the time, um, she well actually I took the dog out for a walk and bought three monsters, different flavors. Then my parents told me my youngest niece will be here from today to Sunday, which I had no problem with since she is about 3, 4 years old. So she's easy to handle, to be honest. Uh, yeah. Other that, I really haven't done much. I did actually been watching a Time Team, which is a British uh, type of history uh, show, which is no longer actually doing it, but was actually it's actually a good series that teaching you about archaeological history from prehistoric out to modern times, and it's good show. But I'm actually watching that on YouTube on my TV. Very screaming though. Other than that, I really haven't done much. I mean, I can't lead the dog downstairs when I'm upstairs because if you do, well, let's say she'll start barking. That can be a bit annoying sometimes. So there's only two options: have her on my bed while I'm doing things, or I could just go downstairs. But I didn't even go upstairs after I get home. Instead, I start baking a sponge cake. I've done that one so many times I had no problem to do it, and actually ended well. Other than that, I currently is trying to make another cryptid quiz. Since I had only done two more, those were up to each one actually has 110 questions, or was it 112? I think it was either 110 or 114. Give me a second. I actually have one of this actually up on computer already. Let's see. Yep, 114. Both. So the new one I'm actually trying to make is either 80 or 70 questions. It depends how much I can actually manage to find there. Um, but I might look through some old questions that I had used before. Um, I'm actually listening to some of my old streams about that, so at least I know that I won't repeat the same questions again or something like it. Um, But so far, of the new ones, I had came up with about 12 potentially. So, and I also mentioned to when I asked Kuvu um, where he was from, since I did actually find some questions based on Bigfoot sightings and all that kinds of about Canada. So I was only curious was exactly which province he was from, and I won't say it right here since I respect his privacy. But I can say it's one of those 10 province. Um, so yeah, um, that's pretty much all I think I have done today. Actually, watched on some TV. Um, went for a walk. Uh, well, been a dog watch. Um, yeah, there's one other thing I could bring up actually. For the past few days, I actually have been working on, take it, some new stories. Come on. Um, it's actually true love stories, but not involved with the MLP. Actually, this is actually Sonic stories. I actually made perhaps 2 stories just in less than 1 day. All of them is text and music. One is Amy Rose with Blaze the cat. Other one is Sally Acorn with Amy. The third one is Silver with Amy, and the last one, the fourth story, is Sonic with Blaze. And here's the thing, though. I actually never even told my girlfriend I actually had made those stories. She was completely surprised. When I didn't mention it, she was like, "How in the heck did you find the kids with those?" Honestly, I wasn't really expecting to have any good luck in those. Um, I just I just simply searched for, let's say, Amy X Sally, or as this shipping name as Selmy. Yeah, surprising, almost like you know, salmon or something like that. So I just searched for it, and it actually were 2 kids that I could manage to find. But the others, well, I did find either 2 or 4 kids. But for most of those, I only took 2. But Sally and Amy and Silver, I actually did put 3 kids. I was really not expecting to be able to find that many. And since I haven't really done any MLP love stories for a while now, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to end my MLP stories at all. It's just I'm trying to expand my fandom stories in different directions. Like I've done a few with like gummy bears and Digimon, Pokemon, and now Star and even Star Wars, and you just I expanding. I'm only expanding my um, potential stories that's out there. I mean, think about it. I mean, I had done so many. Everyone's expecting me to just do MLP stories, but it isn't. But I can say this: I will try to make more G5 stories than G4. G5 was more than just G4. I mean, I'm not going to replace all the G5 stories for G4. Oh no, more opposite. I'm just trying to make it both. Try to mix them as well. That's all. Um, some of the stories actually were I actually have thought of was I have a battle with Queen Haven. Sip and Pip Small with Alpha Barrel, the unicorn. They're I think they're roughly the same age, roughly so. Um, I mean it's not impossible. And as Cody did ask me a while back, what was it? Let me see. Octavia with what was his name again? Big Mac. And I honestly almost entirely forgot about that story. But it's not like I'm doing it on purpose. It's just imagine how many people ask me these stories for the past several years, and how many stories I find and that my girlfriend finds. So, ugh. Especially as my girlfriend finds, it's roughly about almost four, around 400 plus almost. And the stories I find, which is I don't know exactly, but that one that could be around a few hundreds or more. Like Derby Borough, which has around 200,000 plus. But I know this for certain. All of those, only a hand. There's not every single one of those can be used. I mean, I have seen someone actually made a shipping with Twilight in an actual book. How in the world are you dating a book? It's like Game Cat's brother Dylan is dating a book. Am I right?
Well, he isn't, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like that. I mean, we're like, I mean, seriously, he loves to read. I mean, what if he actually were that type of person who actually fell in love with a book that he actually like love is a romantic relationship? And assuming from that based and for Twilight, and I've seen like Rarity with Tom the Rock or uh, just so many crazy ideas. I mean, I'm just saying it's so weird, but that's there are many other stories like Octavia with Big Mac says still is having been worked at, but it will eventually. But that's I can't put an exact when since I have so many ideas. Since Malachite or Story Silvermoon had asked me to do with his um, waterfall mist with Fluttershy when his 7 kids. Um, I had even worked on that one, but if I had to say, if I will make that soon, since his birthday is in April, so but since I have over a month of time to think about it, to um, but if I wouldn't have even had um, here's the thing: if the story would eventually be done, say, if I almost totally forget about the story until like um say April 14 or 15, or especially the day before his birthday, oh boy, there's only one solution. That would have been audio, but only if I forget that until that moment. But so far, that hasn't even happened yet. I mean, sure I forget stories, but I never really forget in that so in a deadline. He his past story with how was it Fluttershy with Celestia, where he did actually point out some he um, he wanted me to do some study, part of the story. It's like he actually gave me some ideas for what he wanted to have this happen. Um, that's understandable. I mean, I actually open for the idea that people can give me what they want to have to happen. But if they don't have no, um, if he never told me what he wanted to have the story to be happening, except for that he didn't want to have any particular violence or something like that in the story or any argue. Well, argues would happen otherwise. It depends on what actually lead up to this that scene. But
Well, arguments I don't particularly like or enjoy, and besides, like did mention, Celestia with Flashlight, that parent was the only one I could think of that
well,
would not have
true,
any
but
arguments.
yeah, I mean, it depends on, like, say, what type of argue they're gonna be in. Say if
Because I couldn't,
also,
I
but
couldn't, I couldn't, I couldn't see Flashlight arguing with Celestia.
well, I
Flashlight's
mean,
a sweet one.
yeah, but it could depend on in a situation. I mean, I have seen Fluttershy actually argue, well, not argue, but almost yelling against a full-grown dragon in season 1. When this dragon was living in a cave not that far from Ponyville, where his smoke or his fire-breathing smoke would cover the sun for quite a long time.
But
And
and
yeah,
and also
but I can
Flashlight did
actually
argue.
but I see what you mean though. But argues can I will just it depends on what type of argues that they're having or and how serious argue. I mean, if they're just having, let's say, an argue, say for Celestia and Twilight or Fluttershy and Celestia were having an argue where they want to do, or if they say if they were on a trip together as a couple, and that Fluttershy want to do one thing and Celestia want to do something else, it's okay. That type of argue is complete normal, and I wouldn't have to admit it for, like, say, I'm not going to even try to make it like a heating argue, but also like more as a, like, say, friends argue that they almost like a debating argue type of scenario. I'm trying to make my stories more as realistic as possible. I mean, okay, how about you make things at this story there were no argue, no drama, no action whatsoever? What kind of story will it be? One word: lame.
A good movie, a good one.
Yeah. So I'm trying to make the stories as realistic as possible. But I've always put in some scenes or part in the story that they're mentioning that have some maybe argue about something, but which I always made point afterwards they make it up. In some of my past stories they have been at some they could have been argued for, and they have been they either saw each other or even talked to each other for either a week or two. That's is one argue scenario. But there's another that they just have if they want, like I said, like say Fluttershy want to do something and Celestia want to do something, and they have no and that they cannot even agree for one to do first. That type of argue, and since you did ask me to do that story for to be at least around an hour long, yeah, it makes sense. I could always do that, but if someone, let's say if either Cody or King Guy or anyone else asks me the story, also takes the music for more than just the 1 hour to, like, say 3 or 4 hours long, uh, you know what? That's if someone actually did ask me to do that, okay, it will take just a little bit longer time to do it, but the longer the video, the more longer the video is, the longer time it will take for it to convert from the stat to complete video. For if it's just 1 hour, even if it's just 1 hour and 5 minutes, the time will take at least it doesn't it can take up to almost a half an hour or something like that. It's to make it complete video. I actually mentioned that since I did one of this auto story for almost 3.5 hours long, that took me nearly and almost quite a while for having to save as a video. I mean, I don't mind if I do a story that is maybe something from 2 hours or 2.5 or even 3 hours. It will take me about a longer time. It also depends if someone asks me, like, say, if if you ask me to do a 3 hours long story for your birthday, oh boy, then I had to do it quite long. Then I did have to be start working on that quite early. Really. I wouldn't even have known otherwise. But if someone asked me to do like, if you can do a story like say 5 almost or 8 hours long, a lot of stories, can you do that? I would have dropped the line there. Just imagine if a story that takes 3 hours or 2 hours to take from almost half an hour or maybe 45 minutes to even to save as a video. But only imagine it 8 hours long. That will be like maybe as 4 times as long as that. But there is another thing I also should bring in that. I can't do a story that is way too long. Well, I can, but it's mostly of my computer's memory. The longer the video is, it's more of the memory it will fit. Even if I don't have any videos on the computer, it still will be perhaps placed just one. And if I do more stories, if they are from between 20 to almost like a half an hour long, I can only perhaps just make 2 or 3 of those stories, and then the computer is saying that the memory is full. But then it's like, what about flash drives? Well, sure, I do have two. One which has more memory of it, but that's the thing. I can put maybe a few more stories in that flash drive, and then it's completely full. And but it's at the moment I would say the max limit of as a text and music story most likely to be as 2 hours, but not more than that. As audio, oh, well, I would never want to do any stories that are way longer than maybe 2 hours, but it's it not only requires a lot of work though. All the stories takes easier to make. Sometimes I do it because saving the time. Um, but since it takes me time, and uh, and since you hadn't even told me what you want to happen in that particular story, even okay, sometimes like in the franchise Celestia, you did add told me on Discord and on Facebook what you wanted to have to happen. And okay, I may not have put every single detail that you wanted in the story, since the work were some of the story I did change to with added some of my own ideas and made some minor alterations, which sometimes I feels is quite necessary to do. It depends. Also, in part of the story that needs some of the things that need to be altered. Since
Oh,
one person asked me to do a story for her um, quite a while back, Celeste, no, sorry, Twilight with one. Uh, I don't even remember this character's name, where she added me to add that the changelings were using planes, bomber planes. I was like, okay, that's unexpected to be honest. But I'm always all ears when it comes to ideas. But I may just say this: there might always be some other smaller or even a major change in a storyline or some details. It depends what from of course from which characters it is involves and what the person has in mind that the story would have been happening. Since like Malachi did ask me to do one had that particular story, he of course he never told me to do it from start from day one to the near the end exactly what he wanted, like the dialogues. Because when he mentioned just some part of the story that he wanted to have been happening, I did add that. I did add that some of that part in the story and made some changes, though maybe some smaller uses. Nothing that greatly though. Then I add some of my own ideas. And as you admit, I'm trying to make his ideas as much as majority as possible.
I mean,
But there's on
when I
yeah,
said you in the Lyra Malachite story that you did want the part where this stallion stabbed her to the point she would have been bleeding to death and
yeah.
such.
That's that was one part of when you asked me to do as, but that he instead of that he was shot. But I since I thought, well, first, okay, if that was a unicorn using a gun, okay, that's more exact, more understanding that they could be using it. But I thought, like, how in a world would a Pegasus or an Earth Pony been able to use a gun, a firearm, to otherwise? Unless it has something, have the firearm put attached to their hoof, and they have something that's like a finger attached to a trigger to be fired. But I don't think maybe not that. So that was the only one of the things that I did change from a firearm to a knife. I mean, it's the only other smaller details that I did change. Not because I didn't like the idea of the firearm, but just like I said, it's only because how things would um, uh, since a unicorn with a firearm more and more makes sense because just using the magic to hold the firearm and make it a trigger to move. But how would that make it even possible for an Earth Pony or Pegasus? But also, it depends on, of course, how the firearm would looks like. If like a normal handgun, okay, that's just something. But I'm just trying to make this as uh, as much as realistic as possible, and some other details that still remains. But it's sometimes it might sounds that I'm ignoring some of the story details that, but it's not even like it. I'm trying to make them as sounds as much as realistic as possible. I mean, like if Game Guy asked me a story where his OC end up dating, say, Chrysalis or Bonbon, and he had his ideas that he wanted to have into it. Like, say, if he asked me to do um, that, they have computers, something like that. Okay, um, I mean, realistically, it's not impossible. Because for one thing, they have arcade machines in G-Force TV show. Since Body Match was playing one of those big, uh, iconic uh, arcade machines. And in G5, they have cell phones, they have TV screens. So, so if something like that happened, okay, it makes sense. That's something I could do. What if Cody asked me to do a G5 story, it's like say between Twilight with Sunny? Okay, that's could I actually do? But there is only one, or okay, actually two characters that I would refuse to do any stories about. That's Misty and Opaline, since Opaline as the only as we know that's complete main villain. Apparently, they also find out that we now know now her full name, Opaline Arcana, which is her full name. And like a Misty, since so far she hasn't been much any hasn't been involved with any other one else. So Opaline and Misty is only the two characters that I refuse to have any true love or true friend stories that's involved. Since since basically Opaline refused to have any sort of interaction with the others, right? I mean, as so far at least. But she may become well might be as being revealing herself to the main five, either in chapter four or perhaps in chapter five. It depends how many chapters going to be in this next one, though. Misty, I mean, okay, the only one that I would consider seeing as a true friend or true love is Issy. After all, they are interacting. But surprising enough, I actually have seen Misty with Pip. I'm quite surprised that they actually have that out. So Opaline is basically is not happening for the time being, at least. I mean, she only have one thing in her mind: power, power, power. She wants only magic back. So that is all she cares about. She doesn't really care about Misty or anything like as a adopted mother. So Opaline won't be able to have any true love or true friend story since she doesn't even really care much about friends apparently. But if I someone asked me to do a story about my own story, think say if I did an origin story about Opaline, like say we know that she appeared in the G5 comic books, which is canon. But what about her time after that, in between before G5? I mean, if someone asked me what I'd do a story about that, okay, that could do it. But there is one potential story I actually had in mind. Um, I actually find this picture about a month ago, where the main five, included Misty, is having a game night. I think they're playing something like Monopoly or Dungeons and Dragons type of game with her. But that story is won't be made for a while since she barely interacts much with the main fight. But I mean, I could perhaps think about that as a potential story sometimes after, um, by the end of the G5. I mean, I'm pretty sure it will be more seasons or chapters of that one. So, but it's potentially this could actually happen either before or after. It depends. But stories of what evolves Opaline as a true friend of true love, it's not happening since, like I said, she doesn't even care about friends whatsoever. And other than that, so yeah, I mean, Misty, I could see perhaps with Issy as a true friend story. I mean, I can see that Misty is potentially as a true friend, maybe as a true love. It depends on as the series comes, course are going.
Oh my god, seriously.
I mean, okay, this might be a little bit too far to be thinking of. Um, okay, what if that Misty eventually would join forces? No, okay, not forces, but join change side. That she became one of the good guys, and if she end up that, what about if Twilight, if she's still alive, a story between Twilight and Misty? Okay, since though even though the Twilight would be okay, detailed, we don't know how much time had passed. It can be 100 or maybe 200. So, despite that, if Twilight is immortal and if she lives that hell and still around, and that Misty falls for her, it works. because I had something done that something similar with um, Peep Squeak with Luna, uh, Snowdrop with Luna, considering that there's a big age gap between them. So, but it's only potential. It's I can't say for much of that if that will or when it will happen. I just don't know at the moment though. So, what is everyone else doing? Cody is probably doing something or eating something as since. Um, true, Cody. Why is everyone as against Spike in the past and or now? Well, in well, it seems a nice finale. There weren't any. No one was actually against or well bullying Spike when he was ambassador. Ooh, speaking of, when he did became the friendship ambassador or ambassador of friendship, I don't think anyone even dared to even to bully him. Considering at least one thing, ambassador is a high title and it should be respected, not be mistreated. So, but I don't think even when Spike became the ambassador of friendship, I doubt um, he took an advantage of his new title to have people others to stop bullying him. Because if he took advantage of using that as his new title, it's it would be going against his character, as I can say that much. But I doubt it he would took advantage of that. But I do think it's possible that Spike could potentially use his ambassador friendship title to arrange things. Like, say, if he had to want to have a meeting with some particular height, with someone, say, if he were to meet uh, another kingdom's king or queen, let's say, if he would go to Yakistan and talking to Prince Rutherford, or how this Rutherford, what it's called, and well, basically, if he would travel to the home of the Jacks to talk to the prince, and he would only use his title to make them to real to understand them that okay, if the most other creatures doesn't know his title or who he is, but if he tells them that when he requests to meet the royalty in that particular kingdom, but if he's denied, and that he tells them that he is being expected since he's an ambassador of friendship from Equestria. If people can confirm that, if the king or queen or any needed royalty can confirm that he is what he claims to be, that's is one thing. But taking advantage of his title for do to get away from things, because I know that in our world there is um, there are in fact some ambassadors that take advantage of their diplomatic status and also their diplomatic immunity to do things that normally would put them behind bars. Like they say if they were taking advantage of younger girls or younger women, and like if they were assaulting them but never been put any crimes. But that can actually vent. But that can actually be in if the government of this ambassador find out what he did, and there's concrete evidence against that, his diplomatic immunity would be removed. But that happens, and the ambassador could have been put behind bars. So I don't think Spike would even try to use his ambassador title in that particular way. I don't think so because first, Spike has never even tried to do anything like it um, when he was younger. Okay, the only thing when he did when he was under the greed mood, that is one thing. He was just greedy. Well, first of all, dragons, even the most like European dragon stores, where they have been the greedy because they're hoarding treasures. But that's one thing, though. But Spike, he takes his ambassador friendship title quite seriously, and he should. And they were actually, I mean, he actually is the one that made the ponies and dragons to accept friendship. Considering that before then, the
Don't you mean
dragons they would even care.
don't
They
you
didn't
mean
even
the
care.
changeling? Don't you mean the changelings? Because he was the one that made Thorax
Uh,
a good friend.
yeah, yes, but also the dragons. Because when before then the dragons they didn't even care about what they did, of course, against the dragons, the ponies. They couldn't have been terrorizing the ponies as much they wanted without being punished by the former or current dragon lord. But when he gave the scepter to Amber and that he accepted her as a friend, of course it took her. She was feeling uncomfortable with this whole day of friendship and all that. But can you even blame her because her kind has never even bothered to even stabilize any form of friendship with any other creatures, like the ponies or the yaks. Because all they did was they took what they wanted. They took all the food they wanted. They burned down everything that other ponies or other creatures' home, regardless if they would have been punished. They didn't even felt that because for centuries or millennia, the dragons had done that behavior for so long. They could just fly over Ponyville, burn the homes down, or doing anything else without being punished by the Dragon Lord. Sure, I mean this whole day of this concept of friendship for Amber was well. There's only one word: alien. But a complete alien for her. But it took her time to get used to this idea of friendship, especially when she came to Ponyville, when she met Spike and Thorax. And it was then when the changelings and the dragons actually also became friends. But then eventually the Dax became friends with them. The hippogriffs, the griffins. Because the griffins themselves, during it one time, they were so proud of their culture. They were so proud of their society, all that. They were friendly towards each other, to others. But after they lost their particular special idol, they became greedy. They didn't even care of anyone else, except if they could make money of it. But that changed. When they made one change in Gilda, when Gabby, when Gabby came, one of those tried to make friends. And then we had Gallus. When she was still early into this, get the use of have friends. It's that thing like this. Cody is a dragon, and he lives in a land of just dragons, and they do anything they wanted. They can fly over the nearby town, burn it down, as later. But but if someone that culture sends over someone to be as ambassador, hoping to stabilize the friendly relations between their kinds. Even though the dragons has always had this concept of bothering anyone else. We don't care. We we don't care of friendship. We don't care about others. We can just care about ourselves. Even if they do perhaps have other creatures like yaks or in this case ponies. They were even bothered to do that. That was until Spike when he handed over the scepter to Amber. At the time, she was still well, she was still unused to have this idea of the concept of friendship. And that is understandable, considering having living her own entire life that only to just let to and having at the time when Spike could travel with Fluttershy to Dragonlance, and that Amber was, well, still the Dragon Lord, when they had bye Cody. Um when they had um I mean, if like say for um having that punishments as well, and that Smolder, she since she did mention that she had an older brother, but never by name until much later on. And when she found out what he has been doing to Spike, that's understandable how she reacts. But when he was the one who told them, one managed to convince the others to embrace things. Because, okay, Garble is one of the few dragons, except for Smolder and Amber, that's he was doing poems. He was doing poetry, which the other dragons thought was so lame, so completely idiotic or pathetic. And that made him to feel insecure that he only did that when he was completely alone. But when he actually did, when he, oh shoot, here's, well, Polarizer's here apparently.
Hello, hello. How are y'all doing?
Um, doing well. The others are doing well.
Indeed.
Game guy just, game guy
Hey, are you?
is, I don't know what
Are
he
you
is doing.
supposed to be at your, are you
I'm
supposed to be at
eating
your
at the
work?
moment.
All
Are
right,
you supposed Are you supposed to be at your workshop? You
Pop Tart.
you pop tart Santa Claus.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, it was snowing over here today, so they had to cancel school. So
Cancel it.
yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
um,
Uh,
so like I said,
recently I've been yeah.
uh, so like I said before he came in, um, the idea for the dragons to accept the friendship was, well, a whole new idea. And how Garble, when he used his portrait to make the other dragons laugh in order to save the dragon eggs. And in the last episode of LP of the G4, seeing how dragons hip as friends. It's possible that happened, but some point between G4 and G5 beginning, dragons were some like unheard of or unseen for generations. Since Dragonlance is part of Equestria, I think at least they are, and since the dragons hasn't been seen for generations, I can only assume that means that the dragons hasn't even been in Equestria, or it is in its point of society for that long, or they have somehow withdrawn themselves, or they could have left Dragonlance entirely and had moved to a whole new different land to live on. But I mean, it's not unlike that's possible, but it could have been potential that. Um, yeah. So it's just that. So, Mister Santa Claus, what you been up to?
Me? Well, today I just went out to High Street. Yeah, I just went out to High Street today. I was just busy. I was also a bit miserable as well today. You know. I've also been watching Sailor Moon. I've recently got back into watching the anime after a 4 year hiatus.
Which one of the Sailor Moons? The
Uh, s-
original,
See
the original.
the original, not the remake.
Oh,
I'm not doing that yet. But
uh, yeah. I mean, I just seen both actually. I mean, I seen the original and the Crystal, but I hadn't even seen the movie though. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if there
yeah,
were going to be more of that. Okay, since
yeah,
speaking of, I mean, there have been a reboot of the Sailor Moon.
yeah.
I mean,
Go on.
many shows had, many series that's from the past few years actually had a reboot. I
Yeah.
mean, uh, like say Ben 10, it had a reboots several
Oh
times
God,
there,
we don't speak about that reboot.
and
We don't speak about
we
that.
have um, what was that? Or man, I really forgot about that one. But they had many reboots of the different series.
Yeah, go on.
So
Yeah,
assuming, I mean, it's not been saying that they were assuming that they would make another reboot of. Oh, right, now I forget. Now I remember. Teen Titan Go, which is a reboot of so the original series. The original series was way better, honestly. Okay, if they
I'm
decide
gonna.
to make,
Yeah,
I mean, they made.
can I get my thoughts? Teen Titans Go. Like, I'm gonna tell you now. Like, I could tell there's been a lot of people that really hated the reboot because it was focused on humor more than more than the
Yeah,
actual story. You know,
yeah, that would make sense. I mean,
but
then yeah, I mean they have a lot of the reboots. Like say,
yeah,
I mean, what if they decide to make a reboot of Drake and Josh with other actors, but playing as them?
yeah,
Or if they decide to make a reboot of Gravity Falls, but same characters, but maybe make them. What if they decide to make them older, maybe as their late teens, like say between 17 or 18, and they decided to go back to Gravity Falls to see their friend Sue or something? Okay, what if they decide to make some sort of reboot
I haven't
movie
seen
of Gravity Falls?
I haven't seen Gravity Falls. I've only seen a few episodes. I've only seen a bit
I
of it.
mean,
I've seen a couple episodes of Gravity Falls, but I lost complete interest in it.
Yeah, yeah,
I probably hadn't even seen all the episodes of Gravity Falls,
yeah.
but I've seen majority of those otherwise. So at least I know what the series is about. Oh, game guy, I have a question for you. Since you're a fan of Gravity Falls, what would you feel if they did a live action movie of the Gravity Falls?
Oh shoot!
I mean,
Oh,
I know that he. I mean, since like, okay, have you two seen Kim Possible?
yep, yep,
Maybe a few episodes.
yep. I've only seen some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, since they actually did made a movie of that one 2019. Let's say I had even seen that one, but Genga said, but he pretty much didn't like it at all. Here's here's one thing I did read about that one. Doctor
I
Dragon, he Doctor Dragon in the movie, he used some form of machine. I don't even understand what it was about, but in the end of the movie, he is returning to school as a preteen. The machine turned him way younger as a teenager, like assuming perhaps 8 or 10 years old, and he had to be wearing a wig and makeup because in the he was like blue. I was like, and Shigo had to be his quote unquote the mother. Oh, yeah. Based
Well,
on that, it's trash. I I don't get it though. Okay, but the trailer or the theme song that the actors of Kim Possible had done, okay, not bad. I mean, it's similar to at least that, but Kim Possible, the two original cartoon version movies they made back in the late early 2000s, one, but they travel through time, where Ron Stoppel, her partner psychic, is is transferred from US to Norway, and that they had to travel, and Kim's friend Monique, the one who worked at the store, had become her new sidekick, but eventually she doesn't. And well, they end up being traveling in the future where they finally meet Wade, this black young guy, which is a super genius. Except that he is, well, like I would say, buff, like bulky buff, like a bodybuilder, like his twin brothers.
Oh, the just
That's just you first.
nice frozen
You
mug,
first.
nice frozen mugshot polarizer.
What the fuck?
sorry about that. I know you guys. I don't know.
The stream just froze there for a second. It was beautiful.
Back in time. So
Doing
my
the
question:
perfect. Carry on.
what is your opinion if they would make a live action of Gravity Falls?
There'd be some problems, but it would probably be the best live action show they'll ever make.
Perhaps, or if they decide to make okay, what did they decide to make this? Not the sort of live action, but they decide to make the same theme as the original series, the same cartoon style, but as a movie. But except for one detail, Bill won't be back since he is destroyed, basically. Um, since you didn't like live action Kim Possible, am I right?
No, God, no.
No, we
So
all don't
bad.
like the life. We all don't
I
like
hadn't
it.
even-
We all don't
You
like
see,
it.
Polarizer agrees with me. He gets it.
Yeah, we all don't like it. Me too, as well. Me
But
too.
have you okay?
I find it
Game
really-
Guy, have you even seen the original Kim Possible?
Oh yeah, a few times. I mean, I've watched it every now and again. I think it's a great show.
Okay. Okay. Since you have even seen Digimon, what about you, Paul Reiser? Have you seen Digimon?
No, not really. I haven't seen any
Oh.
of the Digimon anime. I've only seen the Pokemon anime.
They don't speak anime.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I've seen.
Yeah.
I had seen the only live action movie of the Pokemon, which was okay, some levels, but it's not like the original series that is based on that. But here's one thing: based on what I believe have been that the company or the Pokemon released only about a while back, that Ash is no longer be the main character. I was like, what the? I'm like, what the f? I was like, I mean, consider that he had been part of the series since 1997 until like 2023. That's over like 27
The
years.
same time Sailor Moon, the Sailor Moon series ended, 1997.
Yeah, I mean, okay, not 27, but 26 years, but still, he had been in the main character for the series for 26 years, and he had been the icon, like the literally had been this figure that represented Pokemon with Pikachu. So now Ash is
Yeah.
gonna be retired from the series, and whole new characters: a girl called Liko and a boy named Roy. I
Not
was like,
only that,
okay,
Team Rocket.
Great name, by the way.
Team Rocket on that.
yeah,
Team
I
Rocket
was
is
like, oh,
amazing as well.
yeah, I was like, whoa. First of all, Liko, okay, that sounds more like an ancient style name, and Roy,
And Roy is
that
the
was
name of my
unexpected.
brother.
Yeah, I mean, considering at least though that Ash is not his Japanese name. That's actually
It's Satoshi.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's pretty much. I wonder if they, but okay, there are some characters in the series that okay, every single name that they have, like Gary, Professor Oak, or Lily, or the others, that is not their original names. They also have been as Japanese name, but they have been given an English name, and that's just. I mean, it's just having this whole new idea of a new two main characters going to replace one that has been part of this franchise for nearly 30 years. I mean, okay, since all of us literally grew up in this early years of the Pokemon came out, I was like, I literally grew up. I was like 7 years old when Pokemon came out. I was like, okay, and watched most of all the series on the TV and most of all the movies they actually made. And now, 2022, Wally Rollout announced bye bye Ash and hello Liko and Roy. I was like, what the? And okay, I was like, two new characters. Okay, Pallet Town? Not. Nope. Apparently, it's going to be to start in Paldea region, the newest. And it's still crazy to me that they decided to replace the most popular icon character in the series that represented the series for an entire time with new different people. And honestly, though, I have no idea how the entire fandom has reacted towards this. I mean, consider from at least one thing.
Everyone was not really happy about it. Yeah.
Exactly. Especially from this one thing. Everyone from my generation and from Game Guy's generation when he was born, and also and from my nephews and my niece's generation. Because they have been my oldest nephew. He's about 8 or 9, and he loves Pokemon. And he was I don't know how he's reacted to find out that Ash and Pikachu will no longer be his main character in this series, that the whole new different characters and all that. I was like, it's like the same thing when MLOP, when the Hasbro decided announcing that G4 Season 9 would be the last season, and that's going to bring a whole new generation, which that's what we have now. And back then, I know, guarantee you, there were mixed feelings within the fandom. Like some were like very angry. Others were, well, positive. There could have been a good potential to see how this new series is going to be. Because it was back then, we didn't even know it was going to be an entire new cast of characters. People believed that maybe it's going to be the main 6, but a whole new generation. Based maybe, I mean, the people like okay, G5. It's just gonna be like the main 6, but during Twilight's reign as a queen, a princess, queen apparently. I mean, okay, when I first heard about G5, I thought, what about if they decide to decide to make a whole new series that is focused on that Twilight is the new leader, the new ruler, and her friends by her side, and onwards. But nope. Despite
Nope.
that, despite how many concept artist designs of the new main six lookalike has been leaked, but today, even to this very day, I doubt even were official designs at all. But despite that, it happened. And but even though I can totally understandable that they were angry, confused, and perhaps even some positive feelings within the fandom when G5 was introduced, and it still has great positive response to this day about the new series. And the same thing when it's come to the Pokemon franchise. Before then, everyone has looked up to Ash as the main character along on his journey when he encounters travels with Misty, Brock, Dawn, Serena, Clement, and Bonnie, and when he was in Alola. And now, a whole new generation, a whole new different characters that's going to replacing the main lead character. But I do certainly believe this. Every single movie that we have seen about the Pokemon, except the live action one, has always had Ash the main character. But with the new generation, the new characters, I doubt that Ash will even appear those. Unless that Ash might do some appearance in the new series. Perhaps maybe it's flashbacks, or maybe that he is appearing as a TV screen, or maybe a newspaper saying that add the young boy Ash Ketchum became Pokemon Master or something. I mean, having new main characters in a Pokemon series replacing Ash, I was first. I really heard. I was. I having a hard time believe it. Seriously, I barely even believe that was some act actually was even real. I still believe then it was some sort of joke. I honestly believe it was a joke that when I found out that Ash is going to be replaced with new characters in a series, and it's going to be replaced in the newest region.
Yeah.
I was
Oh, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I hardly believed it. When my girlfriend finally got it, she confirmed to me it was real. And I looked it up, though, confirmed, true enough. It was a whole new series in development, two new characters based on the new region with the newest starter Pokemon. Okay, I mean, I am still pretty much a little bit hesitant about this news, but but the main 5 star. I'm positive this could have been a good thing, but I don't want to take this too greatly, as much to approaching this like with open arms. I'm cautious. I mean, even if not, we have two new characters going to be the main characters of the new Pokemon series. I mean, what if that even despite how many people being some of the people are like myself are cautious and are looking forward to see how this new series is going to be like. But assuming if that they had made 20 episodes of the new series, and after first season it has, and despite that, people after maybe the first 2 episodes of the new series, they will not to do anything to do with this series. The majority of the audience refuse to even watch the series. I mean, it is not unlike that. I mean, it's not unlike that people. I mean, it's not unlike that we would expect that. Considering if there's considering that if a great popular show having the main character for so long and being replaced by just not one but two new main characters, and despite that the fandom take it quite hard, but some are still skeptical about this could have been a good success. And the same thing when it happened to the Milo Ponies actually. Same
Oh
thing.
yeah.
That's
Nice and
that's the same thing. That's the same thing. because when G4 was announced been ending, the whole new series going to be replacing it. There was a mixed feelings within the Brony fandom. That's concern of. Same thing when it comes to Pokemon franchise. That having everyone who has been in this stream right now had been around since has been even though Game Guy is not a Pokemon fan, but he knows at least some of the Pokemons, like say maybe some of the names of the characters, like say Ash,
Oh,
Misty, some of
I
that.
might not be a fan of Pokemon, but even I'm pissed that Ash left.
Yeah, I mean you know at least some of it though, to a certain level at least. At least that. Yeah. And basically all of us here grew up from different even though not all of us are born at different years at the different age here, since the gaming guy is the youngest, along with Polarizer, and the second oldest is Starry Silvermoon, and I am the oldest. Despite that, despite we were born in different ages, different years, but we were born during the time when Pokemon was still at its early years. And now, though, in seeing how many years has passed since the Pokemon this started, and from 1997 to this year or last year when they made this officially announcing it, a whole new year afterwards, people still probably are skeptical about this. Okay, Polarizer. Okay, bye, Polarizer. Malachite, have you seen Samurai Jack? Malachite. Oh, Polarizer's back.
Yeah, back again.
Maybe he
sorry.
was just warming. Yeah, he's back. Maybe he was just warming his Pop Tarts.
Nah, I
Um,
was doing something.
But have you guys seen?
What were you doing? Combing your silver beard?
Yeah.
No,
Yes, I
he's
was.
combing his no, he's combing his hair on his back. But seriously though,
Very proud of him.
but seriously, guy, have you two seen Samurai Jack?
Hold on. Yeah, I think I have seen it. I think I did see it 1 or 2 times.
Okay, what if they decided to make a continue of the story, but we decided to make Jack not main character anymore, but having someone else to replacing him? That would have been terrible. Oh, yes, one thing though. Yeah, even one thing. The Samurai Jack. Well, there's not his actual name. That was given to him when he was in the unaltered future. You probably had that Aku had a young has $7, which 6 was killed by Jack. The last one, Ashi, became his girlfriend near the end, and in the last episode they were getting married, but she faded away since well, basically when Aku was killed in the past, which the future he created never happened, which makes Ashi never been born, since she is part him and part human. But they actually made an official game of a video game of Samurai Jack where he encounters his friend, and near the end he made his ultimate timeline or a pocket dimension or something called, where Ashi never died. She remained. And seriously, Polarizer? Seriously?
Yep.
Dude,
I made.
Why?
Okay.
not
I don't-
cool, dude. Not cool.
Okay, bye.
Oh, I mean, he could have just changed the name. Sheesh. I mean, having the name marijuana is not what I was assuming
It
because,
is a mariner.
yeah, I mean, he could have used the different name, a different character, but I not doing it to showing that I am, uh, that I accept marijuana, drugs, smoking, or anything, which I don't. I don't saying that they should do it. It's not my type of character as a person. Nope. I don't telling people just go smoke weed, everyone. Nope. I wonder what Ku is.
That
I
was
mean, he
quite
push.
the reaction.
Yeah, but Polarizer, I'm sorry, dude. It just I don't want to have the me mentioning it as the name of marijuana or something like that. I mean, I don't want to have my viewers to think that it's okay to do things like that. Especially if, like, say, if Stormy was here. Okay, like when we had his younger cousins showed up in the Easter stream we did last year, and if any one of us had that, like, say, Polaroid had that name back then, I have no idea what his young cousins, because one of the worst actually is just 10 years old. And at that age, you probably don't even know where weed or marijuana is. You know at least what bear is. But marijuana, nope. It's, yeah, I don't actually, what I'm trying to say is, I don't, I, I mean, I'm not trying to make people to embrace that, okay, to smoke or do drugs, something like that. No. I'm trying to make sure that people are there is a stay aware that how does that type of drugs it can ruin someone's life. It also depends if you had a strong will to resist that type of, well, um I mean, okay, let's say if someone actually offered Roy steroids at a gym to make him stronger. And that is one thing. Steroids can also be quite addictive. And also, even if Roy was approached at the gym by some shady guy asking for that, I know that he would like, you are not acceptable here. Okay, if your brother were a gym instructor or even a personal trainer at that gym, and if that he was approached by someone or he found out someone is offering someone steroids, well, let's say that person might be kicked out because steroids are basically illegal at gyms.
The one time. Of course.
Well, I wonder what else to do next after this stream is over. Where is your brother, by the way?
There we go. That shouldn't be a problem anymore.
So, where is your Roy though? At gym? Sleep?
I'm pretty sure he's at the gym, yeah.
Probably. Sorry. Are there gonna be any super millionaire after this? Starry Gorilla. There we go. Is the bullet a super millionaire after this?
Maybe, maybe not.
All right. Because I might end the stream soon anyway. It's just reached 2 hours mark.
By the way, Swedish.
Hmm?
Have you ever heard of a pizza called Cadbury Cream Egg?
That I never had. Why?
Because according to this dude on YouTube, it's a dish over in Sweden, and you're Sweden, so figured that
You
out.
may have to. Okay, put that name in a private so at least where. So I know what you mean.
Hang on.
I. Speaking of pizza, though, we found out about a month ago or so, we're actually having this yearly pizza prize, meaning that you get a prize for or some form of trophy for the year's best pizza baker. And this particular guy or this man, he was not only uh, that, but he was um, um, he was a pizza acrobat. He okay, not like those traditional acrobats.
Oh no, not
but
that one. Hang on a second.
but he did. But he actually made this type of pizza that he was throwing it in the air and having his just one hand and switches made it move around like a circle, just only tips of his fingers, and he have it under his arms and throw up in the air and all that type of stuff. It's impressive how to even you can actually throw the pizza up in the air and catch it, and while it's still as a dough or as like that. It's impressive
Yeah,
how
that.
how pizza bakers can actually
Also,
throw
I
up
got the
that.
wrong pizza. It's not. That's not the pizza I meant. I meant.
Cadbury cream
meant-
egg pizza.
What I meant was a banana curry pizza, not that.
Not sure. Um, but but I had tried banana pizza otherwise itself, but Cadbury cream egg pie la pizza, I never even heard of that one. But
Probably because
I
it's not
wouldn't-
good.
but honestly though, I wouldn't be surprised considering how many flavors there is on a pizza though. I mean, my absolute favorite, which is with ham, cheese, shrimps, or as a pepperoni, it's actually good. I actually, here's one of this though. Sometimes my dad, when he makes homemade pizza, he doesn't use, this tomato sauce. Instead, he actually use ground meat instead. Well, first he fried in a frying pan, then he used the ground meat on the pizza with other cheese, shrimp on it. Vesuvio pizza. I think that's the name of it. It's actually one of my favorites. But there is one I had tried, or which also like is Hawaii pizza. It's not that bad. But there is one pizza that I haven't never even tried. What is actually had chocolate on it. Like candy chocolate. I haven't tried, but I might give it a try, but I just don't know. Okay, since this particular pizza only exists in just one place in the world that at least I am aware of, which is in Edinburgh or Edinburgh, in Scotland, there are, I think there's 1 or 4 pizzerias that actually do serve haggis on the pizza. And if most other people of our viewers may not know what haggis is, well, it's basically is sheep stomach which consists of meat inside it, as which is the traditional Scottish food. And they have that on pizza. I don't know if I even tried that. Okay, I know that my dad has often either tuna on a pizza, which is not that bad either. But what if they decide to have sushi? What if they decide to have sushi on a pizza? I may say, thanks, but no thanks. Oh, this there's actually someone who's viewing this, but let's say this what the person just said in the comments is one thing that you guys won't be able to read, because that is my language. Basically, it says translate to kebab pizza is a classic. Kebab pizza, I have tried, and I do say it's so good. It's pretty good. I mean, I have tried so many flavors on a pizza over the years. Um, Here in Sweden, though, we had this. I don't know if this is a thing common in America though, but um, we had the smaller pizza that you can order, like a child-sized pizza, and those bigger ones, which would be called family pizza. At one time, I could actually eat a whole family pizza myself, or I think I actually did that, or was it two? I think it was just one. But
Speaking of the pizza I put on in the private chat, literally nobody has ever actually eaten that pizza except for the YouTuber that found it and somebody else. If you don't recall, my food loving, psychopathic, definitely not insane cousin Lewis, he's eaten it too.
hmm,
He said it was the worst thing he's ever eaten. Which, considering this is the guy that's eaten basically everything under the sun, that's saying a lot.
he actually have a medical condition that allows it. I don't even remember the name of it, but it was a crazy name. Speaking of a pizza, though,
What do you mean?
there is well, he can eat all things that without he that he can eat almost anything that doesn't um he can eat a lot of things. I think there's a medical condition for that, which is not unheard of.
Well, I don't know if he has it or not. He might just have like a really strong stomach.
There is there is one condition that I know of that I heard of at least that involves. I saw this a clip of 2 boys, brothers, twins. They they could eat as much as they wanted without having any end of it. So the mother had to be in put a lock on their fridge, freezer, and a pantry, basically anywhere in the kitchen, and even had her own bedroom locked because she was afraid that they will get even eating her own medicine. But yeah, but there is one. Okay, oh boy, what if that some in some countries that's I know that people actually eat fried grasshoppers, spiders. What if they decide to put that on a pizza?
Oh,
That's
he'd eat that no problem, but I wouldn't.
yeah. Personally, I would not even. Okay, since this is really common. Well, I don't know if it's really common, but this is something that some people actually eat in China. Rat meat. Well, they put that on a pizza. Not shocking if they actually did. Or if they like in South Korea, where they actually eat cats. Cat meat on pizza. I'd be like, first of all, if that was available in Sweden, that restaurant probably would either shut down or have that removed from the menu. Because having selling cat meat on a pizza or anywhere else, it would be an animal cruelty. But I know for one fact, some certain stores in Sweden you can actually buy certain exotic animals, uh, like ostrich meat, snake meat, and even what was it, crocodile meat. But that type of food or meat has never been sold, not even near where I live. And honestly, though, I probably would try ostrich meat. I mean, that is the biggest bird on the planet, though. I mean, considering that they had the biggest egg on the planet. I mean, their one single ostrich egg could probably be able to give us, I think, it was last time I think it's actually could make if you make pancakes, just one single ostrich egg will give you, I think it was around 50 or 60 total pancakes. Well, if you have normal 2 to 3 chicken eggs, you can use have maybe 20, 25, maybe 30. It depends. But an ostrich, well, okay, maybe not 50 or 60, but I would say maybe it's 90 or 100 pancakes. Or omelets, perhaps around 100. I had to be honest here, I had never even tried an omelet.
Me
Never.
neither.
But speaking of the pizza, what if they decide to put something else? Like in France, which they eat frog meat or frog legs or snails, escargot, which is called. What if they put that on a pizza? Not surprising if they do. I mean, if they have some people can put chocolate on a pizza, so why not saying that if they can put snails?
Wait, so let me understand something. If you could, you would eat ostrich meat.
Yeah, I would try at least. I mean, it's like an oversized chicken.
Hold on a second. There's one person in this world I know that would know what that tastes like. Alright,
But-
where did I put Lewis's thing?
But certain, but there are some like as the viewer who is watching this, which I will say Steelman, which is basically the name of it in translate. Um, he is from my country based on the language that he's been using. Um, I don't think he would eat any type of say dog meat, cat meat, or any of those common name animals, but kebab meats or pizza though, that's actually something I would. Okay, I had mentioned this topic a couple of times before, but what was it? Right. Since the 3D printer machines that you can actually print out almost anything, like in the US, you can actually legally print out firearms. But here's one thing that's actually okay. Hasn't even been produced onto any fast food franchise yet. But only certain universities in Finland had several people to test this, but they actually had 3D printed meat in a 3D printer. They printed out meat and have it, this people, select few people to try that printed meat along with an actual meat. And afterwards, they were asked if they could taste any difference out of those meat. They couldn't, because when they tasted the 3D printed meat, it was like normal meat. You can actually do that, but only there's a difference between the normal meat and a 3D one. It's because the 3D is not actual 100% animal meat, but it's printed out with protein and enzyme, and it's basically had the same flavor as normal meat. But eventually, though, it was. Okay. If this would eventually become a normal, within a big deal within the franchise, like McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, or it is in my country, Max, which is basically Sweden's version of McDonald's. That could actually save tons of money. But here's only the negative part. 3D printed meat, but the 3D printed meat, but the printed meat have a shorter much shorter expired time, the date compared to normal meat. But there is another thing.
As the biggest turkey dinner you've ever had in your entire life. It has a bit of a texture to it, but it tastes pretty alright. That's what Lewis said.
Cool. But okay, when it comes to like 3D printing, which you can actually buy those in any type of like tech stores or especially basically anywhere. You can even order one online. The most expensive that I could find based on Google was about 30 to almost 40,000 for it in Swedish currency. In dollars, that would be, I think maybe as $3,000 or $4,000, give or take. Depends on the market. It's quite expensive, but that is like an industry version of a 3D printer. When I did read about one thing about the 3D printer technology, there was one topic which could eventually be a huge access, not only to industry, but mostly to medical care. 3D printed organ transplant. Based on the article based on the research, there's information I read about it. It was based on that. Say people are on the waiting list for having an organ that been transplanted, can be from days, weeks, years, or never. Depends on what they're being transplanted. And also when it comes to being transplanting, that having one's organ, a new organ to be in, there's a 50-50 chance that the organ could be rejected by the host body. That is one of the constant things I've been worrying about. Especially if it's a heart. That is the most worrying about. You can take some medicine to have it to resist, to have the rejection a little bit halted for some time. But having this 3D printer machine to literally print out an exact copy of that organ that you need, but it will be based on your own DNA. Like having machine your DNA in a machine that then print out that organ, like if it's lungs, kidney, liver, your heart, you name it. But the only thing is that things hasn't even been officially been used in any medical treatment because it's still early to be in the development. But there is also another thing because if that technology would eventually become unavailable to every clinics, every hospital around the world, it could save billions, billions of life around the world. Because and also they lowered it much from 50 to almost complete 0% when it comes to having your the organ be rejected. But the only thing is that stops this. It's not that the technology that's available at the time, which is kind of is, but it's only that's stopping it from once it is being explored is the ethical question. Because let's say if Game Guy is needed a new kidney or a new liver, and that none in his family is no match for him, and none of the extended family is not a match, and that he could have been put on the list, and that could be for months, even perhaps even 5 years that he gets a new one. But having his own liver cloned or being well, basically, it's like a clone copy of your original liver in a 3D printer. It's could actually save his life. I actually seen some articles where some scientists actually grown uh, a bladder from a petri dish, and I seen people actually grown ears on rats' back as a part of study. It's not unlikely that's happened. I mean, there was even a man who actually had a heart from a pig transplant, an actual 100% pig heart. You may think, why would I use a heart of a pig, not an actual human heart? Well, the since the basically pig's anatomy is very almost identical to our own, like when it comes to like some of the certain organs, like the heart and all that, and it's shocking. There were there were actually some scientists actually have been um, did actually make put human DNA, especially brain cells, in a pig fetus. Well, in from early it's like an embryo, and it could they were doing this to see like for future treatments, potential cure for Alzheimer's, dementia, and all other or any brain conditions that there is. But they never allow this to grow to a mature age. They terminate it always after when they're let's use them as an embryo, not more than that, because they were always ethical to being playing as God. But when it comes to like cloning, Game Guy, what is your opinion of cloning of otherwise if it comes to cloning a human? Do you think that we had gone too far, like playing God? What do you think?
Uh, it depends on what you're talking about. If it's like one clone to like make sure it actually works, that's one thing. But if you just keep using it and using it, it feels like that would just be too much. I feel like it should be one of those things that you have to pay for. Like you gotta pay to use the cloning machine or whatever. It shouldn't be free. Like not at all. I feel like it shouldn't. I feel like it should either not be free or just not be something that we
Yeah,
are able to do. Or I don't know.
yeah. Most of the countries in the world, like over 190 of those, or basically all the countries in the world had made it illegal for cloning a full-grown human, because it's you would think cloning a person is simple, but it isn't. Cloning a small organism or plants may be easier, but a full-grown mammal like a human, it's it's not like a very easy process. They can always develop some abnormal anomalies within in the development. Because I can just give some one example. There is a program or a project called de-extinction, meaning they're trying to find a way to bring back some extinct animals to life. They did that with a species of I think it was a sheep. This belonged to the sheep family, and that species actually had only gone extinct only 2 or 3 years before. They brought back a copy of one of those, an example of it. Unfortunately, it didn't live for long. It died only like 7 minutes after discovered it had some lung defects. But the only cloned animal that did live for a long time and have offspring of its own was the sheep named Dolly. Cloning in animals might be simpler to be compared to a human. If say if someone actually had lost their child at young age in an accident, and they have been approached to been having their child cloned, that's something. Even though the child will be 100% identical as the original host, or as some people call the prime clone or the prime host. But this difference is that the clone won't be the same as the original. I mean, let's say if someone had made a clone of me. I mean, that clone would not be may sound like me, and but they might sound like I speak. But if that clone would it be not like even remotely as I am? I mean, if that clone could have been completely shy person or really outgoing, maybe just not have the same personality. Personality memories can't be cloned whatsoever. But unless that they've had some developed some technology that you can download a person's memory or copy the person's brain patterns in a copy and download that in the new person's in a clone's mind. Because in the Halo game series, they had a technology which is called flash cloning. They can somehow were able to transfer the minds of that in a new clone body. In Stargate series, there is a one alien species known as the Asgard. They have been doing that for centuries. They have done it for almost 30,000 years or so. They they download their own mind into crystals, to like little crystals, and from there they download the mind to new clone body, and they could repeat the same circle over and over and over. They did that for over 30,000 years. In a way, they achieved immortality in a certain way, though. But it's something I would not recommend because after so long time, they discovered during the process led them to losing the natural reproducing way, but also leading to a unreversible, well, to almost to a genetic the uh it led to basically it led to a cellular degeneration, meaning the cells became not stable anymore after so long time of cloning of one particular in particular certain individual. Near the end of before the Asgard well ended all, um, some of the leaders in the government were suffering a brain condition could not be reversed. So they decided they had gathered all their kind on the new homeworld and blow it up. They blew up the whole planet with them on it, which they made to commit mass suicide because there was no way for the same to reverse in their cellular problem anymore. They had been so far they couldn't be reversed. It's sad to be seeing one species. Here's the one thing: the Asgard. Before they did the cloning, they were actually they were almost they were around 7 feet tall, human-like, hair, all that. But after being cloning themselves for so long, from just barely from 7 feet tall, and shrink them to just barely 3 to maybe as 4 or 3 feet tall. Less than, I think it was around 3 feet tall. Considering that. And they resembled as the classical Roswell gray aliens. It's seeing how cloning can affect them like that way, which is not impossible if it's going to happen to us. Wow. Oh, nearly 2 hours and 32 minutes almost. Yikes. I was not expecting to last this only 2.5 hours. Luckily though, my free plan resets by tomorrow. Yay. The next Gaishon stream will be next Friday. And it's about Pokemon. And it's about, I think it was around 92 questions. So Game Guy, what did you have for dinner?
Just some McDonald's.
What is your favorite on the McDonald's though?
Just
Cheeseburger?
some nuggets and fries.
Huh.
Milkshake, basically.
I don't know if I ever tried McNuggets before. I don't think so.
I spat up my air. What? That's like the most well-known thing on their menu. How can you not eat that?
I mean, okay, first of all, I had eat nuggets from like stores like that type of food, but I had never actually tried McDonald's McNuggets. I mean, I'm not saying I would never try it. It just never came to my mind. But next time when I may we're going to the McDonald's, if my parents are going there to buy something, I will ask them to buy McNuggets instead. But the mainly that I eat from McDonald's is either a cheeseburger or a Happy Meal. Yeah. Even though despite I'm an adult at this time, I still eat from as a Happy Meal from McDonald's. Well, you see, after my stomach operation, I can't eat much more and a certain amount of food.
Wait, hang on a second. Hold the phone. You've never mentioned a stomach operation.
I have many times before, dude. Thanks to your memory. Yeah, thanks to your memory.
Hold on a second. No, I swear to God, I have never heard you mention that until now. I swear to you.
It's called gastric bypass surgery. It's where they bypass the stomach to a smaller size. Well, the stomach will remain as it is, but just they make it a small pocket with it the size of a matchbox.
Okay. My memory is a lot of things, but that feels like it's something that it would remember, and I would have
Yeah.
definitely remember that.
And here's the thing: after the surgery, I only allowed her to eat to only third amount each time. If I eat too much, I will feel sick, like not badly sick, but just too much of that is. Um, that also means that I my stomach doesn't even have the stomach acid anymore as normally. So that means that's kind of limits my type of food I want to eat. If I want to eat spicy food, well, I can't as much as anymore. And like a McDonald's, I will not even eat I cannot not even eat a Big Mac or those, or if I want to have, say, if I want to eat 3 cheeseburgers, I won't be able to eat that. Just one. I might be able to use just one cheeseburger and small fries. That's it. That's all I can eat. I did actually my okay, years ago, because the card shop that's behind where I live, they actually has one section that's used to be a burger grill place. My mom actually went there one time, bought us some burgers, and I did eat one. I took one bite, but I didn't chew it carefully. But I did swallow. I could barely breathe shortly afterwards. I like cold sweat. My heart was racing. Maybe it's almost like 3 times faster than normal. I couldn't even barely. I was sitting in an armchair in the living room. I was holding my hands against the arms, the resting. But that what happened? Well, I was told after the surgery that I need being careful and being careful chewing the food carefully. But I was just simply too hungry to even remember that. Same thing is what happened when if I eat too much sweets like candy, cookies, cake, or anything that's sugar in it. It will make me feel sick, and it's nothing to be worrying about that. It only lasts for only a short time, but not. It doesn't even have any serious long-term effect. It only happens for a short time. But another thing is, if I don't eat much anything at all, like a sandwich or anything, I will start feeling shaking. Like I can feel my hands start shaking. I can still feeling weak. It means my blood sugar is crashing, like when you're a diabetic, because you need to have something to retain that. But I don't have a diabetic. I'm not diabetic at all. All I need is just eat a sandwich or something. Maybe just, or if I just grab a piece of cheese, any food that I can have, sandwich or just a dry sandwich that is just nothing on it, it works. And these days, I barely eat much white bread anymore. Instead, I eat more as full grain bread because that's more healthier than the regular white bread is. This The reason why I did this surgery was to lose weight, because at the time before then I did this surgery. Well, let's say I did weight a lot. I mean, a lot. Come on, seriously, computer? That was not what I was looking for. Come on. Ah, here we go. At the time, my weight was 396 pounds. So almost 400 pounds. And here's the thing when
Damn.
yeah, I was With my family was asked if there was any this if I was qualified for this particular gastric bypass surgery. I was, but the only requirement I had to lose several pounds. I had to be weight at least around 330 pounds or 150 kilograms, because if I weighed more than that, I was not even allowed to have a surgery. I had to either be 330 or less in order to do so. And the doctor told me just before the surgery that not every single person drops down to just exact 330 pounds during before the surgery day. And you may think this has been an easy ride. Oh no. Oh no. Far from it. I was actually, since before then, I had never done any form of surgery whatsoever. But there was only one question in my mind. What if I was allergic to this sleeping gas or something? I mean, it's not unheard of. There is people that can be allergic to this sleeping gas or something, or aesthetic. So I asked the doctor if that happens. I mean, my parents had been doing surgery before then. My dad did some back surgery for one of the discs in the spine back in 2005. My mom did some surgery herself for some years before then. So I wasn't sure if that could also be genetically. I'll say if one of my parents had this genetic, couldn't stand one type of synthetic or sleeping gas, and I had to. But when I did the surgery, they didn't do anything serious though. Instead, they only made like 5 holes, like just peeping holes in the stomach, and did that type of surgery. And afterwards, well, I was not allowed to eat any normal food for weeks. All I had to eat was liquid food, like soup or one of those diet type of soup or anything. And I'll tell you, some taste is so bad. I didn't even want to eat that. But after a couple of months or so, I think I was actually permitted to eat normal food. And since then, I have. But I should tell this. Shortly before the surgery, maybe a week before though, every single night, I went downstairs when my parents were asleep, and I took normal house paper, like those when you make if you had a sneeze or something like that, or something like that, or just wipe your hands, that type of paper, so you can have in a kitchen. I took that, and I took the cheese we have. I took scroll off. I was peeling off the cheese with the slicer, and I rolled that in papers, and that was just. I took maybe each time I took maybe as from each those rolls. Um, I might say it was probably like 10 or 15 small slices of cheese, rolled that in papers, and I had probably like um not one rolled on in paper. There was probably 3 total, and that was like, so 3 times 15. I had probably like 45 slices of cheese, and I did took them out to my bedroom, and I hide them underneath my pillows. But I did eat them, all of them at once that night for over a week. And despite that I wasn't even allowed to eat normal food because due to that, I didn't even wait up. I didn't even gain any much weight on that. My parents, they, of course, they realized, they noticed that the cheese has been shrinking for over a week, and they know that I was the only one who could have done it. And I did confer, admitted it to my parents sometime afterwards, and even to my mom when I was in the hospital for my surgery. I actually confronted that. I confessed it to my mom and the doctor at the same time. Well, let's say my mom wasn't really mad because she realized that is who else would have done it. But I did reach down to that certain level of the weight that was required. Um, but sadly, well, basically though, I lost a lot of weight until um, from 330. I think that my last the least I weighed was around um come on. I think it was about between 200 uh and 198 pounds. Sadly though, I had regained a lot in weight again. I think last I checked it was around 279 pounds or so. It's I had never been a person to be doing some exercise. Never. I mean, except for I was in school, but that was only for a short time though. Uh, but I might start doing to do it again.
I
Another reason why, and another reason why I my parents and I convinced me to do this is if I had gained more weight, if I had weight over, say, um, since I barely weighed almost 400 pounds, if I had gained, say, 200 kilograms or 440 pounds, I was in a higher risk to get a heart attack. I mean, people that's getting overweight, obese, could have a high risk to be developing heart attacks in even young age. People from their 40s and 60s are high risk to be having heart attacks. But people in game guys age can also have heart attacks. It's not uncommon. Well, it's not that common, but it happens. But of course, it depends on the family's medical history. Say if there's any sort of type of um, any medical genetic traits that makes that the person can have a heart attack even at 15 or at 20. But I'm can have heart attacks since it kind of runs in the family actually. My great grandfather, he died of heart attack when he was in his 70s. So it runs in the family. But despite seeing this, let's say Roy and or Kuvu, especially Roy, despite how much he goes to gym and that he is well fit, people may think that he is low risk to have heart attack. Even he has the right diet, that he doesn't eat too much fast food or that he eats normal food, that he will do some exercise. He's still in the line of risk to have a heart attack despite that. I mean, there is a lot of people that's very fit, like a bodybuilders, who still can suffer from heart attacks. Some easily that you can survive from. Others, well, they're done. But of course, like I said, it depends also, like say, several family genetics history, like in medical history. Say, if heart attacks is very common in the family, say for let's say if your grandfather, your great grandfather, your uncle have heart attacks, and that maybe if say if four generations in a family have heart attacks from between age 35 and 60, it's likely that say let's say if game guy's great grandfather has heart attack in his 60s, then his son, his grandfather, then his dad, who is now in his late 50s, sometimes under in his 50s, he can have a heart attack, and then game guy, Roy, Dylan can have heart attacks in a certain age also, because it depends on um, like I said, it could be genetic, but also other factors can trigger it, like stress, over obese lifestyle. But if you're training a lot, have the right diet, it's could lower the risk of heart attacks. But if there's no cases of okay, if let's say if game guy's grandfather have heart attack but survived, it doesn't mean that everyone else in the family could have heart attacks. It can happen to anyone. But if there are multiple heart attacks in a family for many multiple generations, the, it's higher risk it couldn't be in developing heart attacks later on. I mean, let's say if Malak has had some medical, some genetic condition in his family that he's not even aware of. Even his mom isn't there aware of, or his uncle isn't there aware of. I mean, what if there's let's say, cancer, uh, like say, prostate cancer? What if that, if let's say his uncle has could have it since he is in the around the time of the age around 40 to 50s, which is normal happens. I mean, what if the suddenly that game Malachites suddenly wakes up one morning, has such serious pain, like um, it's someone like a stabbing type of pain, and they go to doctors and turns out, well, I'm sorry I have to tell you this, but your son has prostate cancer, and his mom like, how can he have prostate cancer? He's just like in his early 20s. It's unlike that. I mean, it's not uncommon, but this, I mean, it's not that common, but it could happen, I believe. I mean, like I said, some things like that could be genetic, but others can't. Heart attacks, if it only happened one or twice in a family, it'll despite that both people who had it did survive. But it can be genetic, but also other things could trigger it easier, like fast food. If you have that type of lifestyle, don't care about what you're eating, you don't do any exercise, that can trigger heart attacks much easier in the families or in your life. But let's say Roy, if he eats normal food, that not too much fast food, do a lot of exercise, knows what he eats, and doesn't, and like other things that can also that smoking, drinking like beer or like alcohol, those two things can also be in two major factors to why also you can have heart attack. If you don't do anything like that, if you're okay, un- unless you drink non-alcoholic beer, which is more safer than the normal beer, but if you don't drink any of that or smoke, then you probably have a healthy life. Um, since both my grandparents, my dad's parents, both passed away of cancer. I don't remember exactly which I know which type, but I sometimes mix them up though for which one. Um, one was blood cancer, leukemia. Other stomach cancer. My mom's adopted dad, his third wife had cancer twice. First, breast cancer, which she beat, but the last one was bone cancer. Now that's it's harder to be honest. Having someone in your family that's suffering from something like this, and it's it's hard. It is, especially the loved ones around you. I mean, my grandfather's wife, or his last wife he had, I remember her so much good times with her. I mean, even when she was in her late stage of the bone cancer, she was so weak. It hurts even to this day, even just thinking about it. But I don't think about it. I don't see her in that weak state. The times I remember her when she was in her prime age, she was very strong-minded person. I mean, the best memory I have of her when we were actually over to my grandfather's house apartment at the time when they lived. We were spending Christmas. This was probably in the early 2000s. I don't remember exactly which year, but I wasn't being. I must have been between 10 or 12, something like that. Um, his wife, um, she was dressed as Santa Claus, even though I didn't believe in Santa Claus at the time anymore. But still, it was nice of him she maybe do that. Well, let's say she had been drinking a lot, not a lot, but some. She was well, a little bit just average tipsy, and the bear it got stuck in a Christmas tree more than once, and even got loose. Oh man, that was the best memory of that Christmas I ever had. You always, you always should treasure, cherish those moments with the one loved ones that you're no longer around with. I wish that I really wish that I had known my grandparents, my dad's parents. I don't even have no memories of them whatsoever. Considering that my grandmother died when I was just barely 1.5 year old. My grandfather, though, I was barely 3.5. I don't even know anything much about him except what my mom and my dad told me about it. I know that my grandfather, he had a long career of multiple different works over the years. Oh, bye, game guy. Um, my grandfather, he had multiple jobs, works, titles, occupations throughout his entire life. From a shoemaker, farmer, errand boy, factory worker, lumberjack, um, what else? Oh, right. He was even a patrol guard. He was patrolling. He was guarded at the border between Finland and Russia at a time before he. I think it was sometimes before he actually moved over to Sweden, though. Um, he moved over here with my first of all. Then his family came after that. Just and based on what my dad told about my grandmother, oh boy, she was partially, I believe that she was sometimes alcoholic, but not all the time. But uh, what I can tell is that one time when my grandmother was, well, sometimes when my grandmother went going to a certain hill or a part of forest in my hometown, some what she called the Squirrel Hill. I don't know why. She could sit on a bench there feeding the squirrels. Sometimes she could find some teenagers' clothes in that particular forest. After some teenager had been a little bit too frisky, if you know what I mean. But that was not all the things that she did find. She could find almost anything, all from pencils, money, basically anything actually. And that is one trait that I actually inherit from my grandmother. I have for some reason the craziest. I mean, I can literally be finding crazy things when I'm out. I mean, one time I actually found a 50 bill on the ground. I was like, whoa, 50 bill. Phew. Did I keep it? Well, kinda. But I had to split it with my brother. I was like, what? Seriously? What do I have to split with my brother? This was my money. Um, I do sometimes find money, but the most I do find was probably a few coins here or there, but that's pretty much it. One time with my grandmother, when my dad was young, I wouldn't know exactly what age, but I will guess maybe early teenager, perhaps. He and his friend at the time, they had collect a lot of glass bottles, which they were going to return to the store to get some money for. That was the time before they had these machines, which we have nowadays. So they put this in a big garbage bag in a storage that my family had, my dad's family had at the time. One day, he and his friend was going down there in the storage to grab this garbage bag, but when they got there, it was gone. Turned out my grandmother took it and she bought wine from that. And I will tell you, based on my dad's story, he was pissed. Well, can you blame him? Oh, Jesus. Though, one time my dad told me when he was young, I think he was, I would guess maybe between 13 and 16, perhaps. Um, During the winter, he was, well, uh, game guy, you know when ice are broken up and there are pieces like so big that you can sit on.
Say it again.
When the ice on rivers or lakes are breaking up, that sometimes there are pieces that you can big enough that you can sit on.
I don't think I understand what you're talking about.
Okay, well, you know rivers and lakes are in the winter sometimes or in the spring when the ice is breaking up in pieces.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can be big enough that you can actually sit on. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's
I
what
don't
my
think I've
dad
ever
did.
done it.
No, my dad did that. He somehow managed to jump on an ice piece, a piece of ice, sit on it, and he just sit on it on the river. And this was during the middle of the winter, and it was cold. I think it was I believe it was from the either early to mid 70s, and I'm surprised that he never fell in and, well, get cold. But he managed to get in land otherwise afterwards. Shocking, But one story that that my dad did when he was younger, but I don't know exactly how old when he was at that time. I don't think he actually told me. Um, this was during the summer, and he needed to take a leak, and so he went to some bushes. He gets a shock because what he didn't know, behind the bushes were electric fence, because there was this enclosure on the other side for, I don't know, sheep or cows, and the electric fence was active, and he peed on that fence behind the bushes even though he didn't even know they were there, and he gets a shock, even though it wasn't like lethal shock, but trust me, you don't want to do that. I mean, what if you like even if it to you like, I had to take a leak. Ouch. Oh, that's a one way to wake up if you're tired. Hmm.
Yep.
Wow, 3 hours to 5 minutes. Yeesh, time goes. Oh, look, I still there. Your Canadian Michigan Scarecrow.
Abominable Swedish monster.
Thanks
Oh
you for
my,
calling me that. Thanks for
oh
calling that,
my
you
god,
Michigan.
I can hear Malachite clearly now.
Thank you,
Yeah, my
thank you for that,
my
Michigan.
mute button.
Michigan.
My mute button wasn't working properly. I had to reset the batteries.
Oh, that sounds cool. Michigan meatball.
You're more a meatball to me. I mean, look at your name. It says Swedish on it.
All right. Scarecrow.
Yours.
Kubus. Loverboy.
I feel okay with you calling me Palm Tree. Cole was more of a scarecrow.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But then again, I have scared the crap out of him, like because he's not paying attention.
I do wonder though, who's tallest between you and Game Guy?
I'm
That
6'5".
depends. Oh, then you're taller than me.
Huh.
I bet I can pick you up and set you on my shoulder.
No, I'm 6 foot, so that's not how that's gonna work at all.
Same here. Only 6
I
foot.
think I'm also heavier than you, so that's not gonna work.
Our friendly Michigan pirate, but Game Guy's a pirate. Or the parrot. Polly's a cracker.
I don't want to be no fucking parrot.
Perhaps.
No, you're not a parrot. You're a cockatrice.
I will be a phoenix. Fuck you very much, mister.
Well, okay, at least one thing. I know at least one bird that Malachi would be.
You'll be an ostrich.
Oh, yeah.
No, Cole can. He's more feathery.
Okay, you will be an emu.
I'd rather be an eagle.
Will he have a human? Will he have a human sidekick named Doug?
No, wait.
Emu and Doug.
Wait. Malachi will be a platypus. I mean, okay. This is the only. Okay, platypus is the only known animal I do know, which is still, I can't even believe it. An animal, a mammal that lays eggs is. I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like, okay.
Well, I
question.
mean,
Yeah, it's crazy though.
technically, humans do that, kinda, not really, sort of.
Well,
In a technical
true, but not.
stance, they can, but it doesn't really count. I don't think. I don't know.
Well, okay, this might shock you. Earlier today, yesterday actually, since it's around midnight for my time. I read about this from Jurassic Park that today it is basically impossible to clone dinosaurs. Since okay, even if you do find amber with a mosquito and that you can extract the DNA from the mosquito, it's still impossible because the DNA's expected lifespan to maintain itself is only about a few million years. So after 66 million years or so, it's basically is breaking down in too much fragments. Which in Jurassic Park movie where they added amphibian DNA or frog DNA in order to make those gaps. So it's impossible. But there were one man who said that he wished that he could create his Chickensaurus. Yeah, Chickensaurus, or having a chicken which has no beak but a mouth like a dinosaur with teeth and a tail. And I have a question. Do you think that we are somehow related to the dinosaurs?
Maybe.
According to some scientists, nope. And the okay, this might shock you, but the oldest ancestor to all life, including humans,
How much
wasn't
are
even
these facts going to shock us?
what?
What?
I mean,
How
the
much are these
biggest.
facts going to shock us? I mean, isn't that enough electricity to power your city?
I don't know, but I get it now, dude. But this is
About time.
basically funny, jackass.
Huh. Yeah, that's checker. I didn't even notice that.
Okay, so the smallest are the first common ancestor to all life. It was not bigger than your thumbnail. That big. And this particular small animal, it was shaped almost like a raindrop. And unlike any other life forms at the time, this one actually had a mouth and a butt. And and it couldn't even move forward like any others. Any other previous fossilized finds over the years, some over the past few hundred years, some scientists had expected to believe that those were just simple plants and other not animals. But quite recently, for the past 10 or 20 years, a lot of people actually have been doing some tests on those, showing someone actually was growing, and one of them actually had steroid substance in them, and that only occurs in animals. So all of those were actually animals, despite they didn't even look anything like it. Some they just looked like seaweed or just simply as a blob or something. And those were from between 5 and 400 million years old. And that is at around the same time where our oldest ancestor of the old life is from. Just from a small living creature, it's not bigger than your thumbnail. And it became this common ancestor to all life, like the dinosaurs, humanity, basically anywhere. Just imagine from a small, like slug-like creature, and it just showing how things develop into or evolved into now. And many people or some experts have been predicted how humanity, or at least the future humans will look like. Some of their predictions, like our skulls will be bigger, slightly bigger, no eyebrows. Our eyes will might be as almost twice as big. But that is just only one prediction they will have, and who knows? I mean, it's also depends on, of course, if we are colonizing deep space. Like if we live on a planet like Mars, our body will adapt to that gravity. That means the bones will be less compact as on Earth, since those Martians can't go to Earth because their bones won't be adapted to that gravity. Same thing as if we will live on a planet that's twice as big as Earth, that means the gravity will be twice as strong. we won't be able to survive much as well. We can survive, but we won't be able to much move around. But after 2 or 3 generations, they will have no problem to walk around. They can walk around as normal. Or if we live on a planet which is gravity, let's say the moon, we can jump instead for just only a few inches up at the ground, instead for to as much as, I don't know, 4 to 5 feet in the air, and we can perhaps lift things much as, let's say, if you have something that's weights of 400 pounds on Earth, but on Mars along the moon, it weighs almost half of that. Think about it. You can oh yeah, go lift this, and you go back to Earth like, oh no, back on the moon, whoop doop 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 doop. It's just strange how that thing works. And who knows, maybe in the future that might do some experiments on ourselves to alter our DNA that we can survive in an atmosphere that just consists of carbon dioxide. Or we can survive there's sulfur atmosphere. I mean, the idea is still right now is science fiction, but who knows? With the next several hundred years, it's possible. I mean, think about it. None of us even believed that traveling to the moon was even possible. Like Jules Verne, when he wrote his book to travel to the moon, that was like in the 1800s. Space travel was never even thought of as even a real thing. Submarines, like Jules Verne, he wrote about the travels under the sea. And the submarine or U-boats, that technology wasn't even possible otherwise. Or flying machines like helicopters, like in Da Vinci's time. He made schematics of parachutes, flying like early designs of a helicopter. Think about that things in the 1400s. He was ahead of his time in ideas. So if that happened, and then early 1900s, around 1930s, when the helicopter was actually invented, and the submarines was invented, space rockets was invented, satellites, and who knows what else are things that we thought always had believed that was considering in science fiction, like flying cars. Or we can, in some sci-fi, that you can travel faster than light. And now we know that is impossible. But who knows, in the far future, we may discover a way to travel faster than light. Or in the sci-fi series Andromeda. The main character, Captain Dylan, yeah, after you like your brother, he was
Great
trapped
name.
on his ship for 300 years near a black hole. And his ship wasn't even destroyed. Because that is scientifically impossible, because any object, even a ship or a planet, would have been disintegrated to pieces long ago, regardless. I don't think, regardless if you have the most powerful shields in the development at the time, nothing would even survive, not even a ship. Okay, you place Mars in front of a black hole, it would be in 20 pieces. You put Sun in front of a black hole. Sure, the process was slow, but it eventually would have been sucked into the black hole. Nothing can survive in even a near presence of black hole. Not only thing is in the sci-fi, but in real life, no, nothing. Not even a comet. If a person was even near a black hole, well, it would immediately be torn apart. But all I can say is technology that we consider today in sci-fi, like in Star Trek, warp drive, travel faster than light, is impossible. Well, considering at least. But some scientists may think that warp travel might be possible in a far future. Teleportation. Well, so far we have only been able to teleport some particles, some several meters or feet, other several miles. One time, I do think they teleported a particle or an atom from US to France or to Europe. I think they actually did that. I don't know. But that type of technology is, well, far away from us in even developing in real life. Or fusion reactors, which is the dream of the building to replace nuclear powers. Because nuclear power plants have always radioactive waste had been stored for 100 or maybe it's 200,000 years deep underground. But fusion reactors, they don't produce any waste. It's pure energy. It's like having a miniature sun on our own planet. That's only one thing that we can. The only thing that's required that we need to have a fusion reactor that's being active is that they need required an immense magnetic field to maintain fusion. Otherwise, or as in Star Trek, they're using matter antimatter power source. And we can't even produce antimatter because if we get in contact with matter, boom, it's a huge explosion. Like in the Halo games, there is one species that have the technology, or well, technology that could accelerate. They could travel between galaxies in instants. They could accelerate uh, evolution of an intelligent species. Let's say if they come to us right now in our, well, say maybe it will call our development as electronic age or information age. They come, they come, they accelerate our evolution from information age to way further up. Maybe it's so advanced that we don't even need our physical ships anymore. But in that same series, the same games, that they're also same species. They could create life. They could create worlds, literally building planets and make them habitable. Just imagine that dream for us. If we evolve enough, we even possess the develop technology that we could create a planet around anything. Or like in Star Trek, they built a machine called Genesis device. They smash it, send to a planet or a barren, a complete, a lifeless planet toward in a, or a planet in a, and it created life. It from a barren, lifeless rock to a habitable planet. Think about it. If they could that in a sci-fi, what if we could that do that ourselves in the future? We can terraform. If we now these days, it would take us 100,000 years or so to terraform Mars into habitable as Earth. But if we had technology to terraform a planet, not from even 1,000 years, what if we can terraform the Mars into less than 2 years? And we can travel from Milky Way to Andromeda less than maybe perhaps only a week or only less than a day, less than between a week to just 24 hours. Think about it. Or we can travel say 20 billion light years away to the deepest, most distant part of the universe, less than 5 seconds, and back in 5 seconds. Just imagine the incredible that technology could have given us if we live that long, or if we develop in that type of technology. I mean, there's no limit to our humanity's imaginations. as long as that we cannot realize what we can our potentials. I mean, okay, what if that's maybe one day in one of Game Guys or Roy's or even Dylan's kids or the descendants invented something makes them, I don't know, wealthy or so incredible. Have you guys seen Meet the Robinsons?
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, what if you were able to make something like him? Yeah, normal teenager or normal kid, and just boom, became a world famous inventor. I mean, he made this machine. He wanted to see his mother, but instead he chose a different path. Became a world famous inventor. It's well, just that. Well, I should probably end here. Pretty sure I passed the my free plan use by now. uh, Not the first time I do. Malachi, will be in the Super Millionaire? I
Isn't
mean,
this normally when your parents would fall asleep?
yes, just asking. Well, they are to sleep now. The only ones that just sleep now is my younger niece. But she is in a different room though. Though my parents might go to bed maybe within half an hour.
Mm.
So or we can always do it the line another time. It's up to you.
Yeah, some other time.
All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Um, Paul Reiser showed up and left, and Cody was here. Have this two
We
year.
had, we had we had Paul Reiser prove he's a crack addict.
That would be something for our friend the Scarecrow, Kubu.
I couldn't resist that one. That one was for you, Cole.
Oh, dude. Storm is Storm is here.
That one was for you, Kovu.
Storm is here.
All right.
Stormy,
Good night, everyone.
Stormy,
I'm kidding.
Stormy, bad timing. I was about to end.
And I was about to
Please
show
do,
these
please do
guys.
before the tornado touches down.
And I was about to show these guys something really weird. Looks like I can't right now. Cool.
As you said, the friend you never wanted or needed.
Nor needed.
I think he is directly pointed out towards as game guy after that statement.
I was joking about the good night, everybody. I was referring to the fact that Swedish was going to end.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't even know that. I mean, I didn't even know that Storm was even going to show up or not. I mean, it's. I mean, you never know about him. Not to be in a bad way, but just you never know what when he will pop out here or not. Just depends. I mean, like Brianna, she has showed up at just at random points and time to time. Um, I mean, I was expecting Kubo would be here by now, but he never even showed up. Not the first time.
Kovu is so late for tea. I wouldn't even save the sugar for him.
Yeah, he will be like 3.5 hours late. Well,
Be like
Stormy,
Alice
this
in
the
Wonder. It'd be like Alice in Wonderland for him. He's late. He's late for a very important stream. No time to explain. He's late. He's late. He's late. He's late. He's late.
well, Stormy, I'm actually about to end here, but you can still join in after stream afterwards.
Yeah, I wanted to show you guys something really ridiculous.
Well,
Well, it's not
everyone has
ridiculous.
been
It's kind of cool, actually.
well, it has been fun. 3.5 hours. They probably need a record for a while. I may have to be saying this before I end. Hopefully by sometimes in July, my girlfriend will be here. Hopefully. When that happens, well, I won't be alone when I do my stream then. She will be part of it.
So it'll be kind of like what happens with Roy,
Yeah, kind of.
where he just kind of pops into the room whenever he
Yeah,
wants to
true.
join in. I mean,
You should be over here in the U.S. Sriish.
What?
You should be over here in the U.S. At least you'd be far from
That's
war.
yeah. I mean,
yeah, but
I'm
he'll be
planning-
closer to the politics, and nobody wants that.
I'm actually planning to do that for some time, but when I get the time for that, and Stormy, you will be let in just after end the stream here. So, well, everyone, this has been a long, hilarious time. Oh boy.
Yeah.
As my friend Stormy will be here soon. Malachite, or aka Lord Silvermoon, aka Michigan Palm Tree, and Game Guy. And as Paul Rice was here earlier. So see you all like tomorrow when my plan is reset. Woohoo. Bye.
Ta-ta!
Bye.